right, welcome back for the second half of our training today, where we're going to concentrate on Premiere Pro. When we talk about editing programs, what I'll tell you is that every one of them is what we call a variation on theme. It does the same thing, and it really does it the same way, but the buttons might be in different locations. As Obi said earlier, it might be driving the different rental car, right? But the other editing programs, they kind of do the same things in different ways. And you'll see us start out with the formalities on things. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about creating the master project folder. We're going to identify our panels and create our workspace in Premiere. That's really, really important. All right, and then we're going to create our project. We're going to import our footage. We're going to create a sequence. We're going to add some titles, and we're going to export our project. Okay? And then if you're over 21 or you're hungry for lunch, we're heading to Oviedo Brewery for beers, all right? Because I saw it on the way in and I love me some craft beer. So that's what we're going to move into. And from this point forward, I'm going to jump over to Premiere Pro. And this will take a bit of time as we step through it, but I want to go through it from the start because now that we have Premiere Pro on the computer here that all you guys can use, you may be faced with some of these same opening screens as we are here. All right, and you guys are seeing the same thing I am? Awesome. Okay, so first what pops up is our introductory screen, and we're going to create a new project. Okay, and I'm going to select New Project. Now it's going to ask me, what do I want to name my project? Where do I want to save my project? Okay. And what I do is that I create a master folder for everything. All right. In this photo right here called Two Rivers, folder right here called Two Rivers, I have 11 video files and 1 audio file. Okay. Here's what you have to understand about video. Video will let you pull sources from everywhere. You could pull them from a flash drive. You could pull them from an external hard drive. You could pull them from your computer locally. You could pull them from the internet. Okay? But the minute one of those files goes missing, it is missing from your project. If it's an audio file, you'll never hear audio. If it's a video file, you will never see that video, okay? Your files have to be in the proper location together, okay? Think of it this way. When you're at home, in my bedroom, I've got my main dresser, and I keep my socks and some of my t-shirts and things like that in the dresser. I keep my pants and my button-up shirts and all that good stuff in my closet, hanging on hangers, okay? But when I go on vacation, I need to take the clothing that I want, the shoes that I want, the socks that I want, and I have to put them all into a suitcase. And if I leave for vacation and I don't have my shoes with me, I'm going to be without my shoes for that whole vacation. You have 2 options then, right? You go in search of your shoes, or you go in search of your missing video file, okay? You make a new video file, well, it's not going to be the same as the old one, and I bet you can't recreate it, right? So you have to have all of your files in the same folder. That way, we can take this folder, and we can put it into another computer, and we can edit that project, okay? Now, Adobe likes to say, hey, why don't you just save them all into the cloud? Okay? Because then when you go to this iPad or this computer or a different computer, you can download your project from the cloud. Well, downloading the project may not be too difficult, but downloading all of the files that go with it may be, okay? Because you may shoot 300 video files, and you may only use 5 of them in your video. I have 11 video files here. I'm probably going to use 2 or 3 of them in our video today. I have an arsenal of what we call royalty-free music. And Florida Aviation Network has a license where we can get royalty-free music. Because as much as we love music that we might hear on the radio today, when you go to put that onto your video, you better pay that artist for their time, or you better pay Spotify or MCA or whoever has the rights to their music. Royalty-free music can be used, okay? I have an arsenal of royalty-free music. I only need one for our video today. So create a folder to put your files in. Everybody look at me and go like this, okay? All right, then you can move that folder anywhere you want, and you can open up your files on any computer you want, okay? That folder right now is titled Two Rivers, which happens to be a town in Wisconsin that I went to visit, that I have a friend who lives. And in that folder right now, I have 11 video files and 1 audio file. When I go back to Premiere Pro, we're going to name this Fan Training, okay? And the location, I'm going to choose my location. I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to choose Two Rivers and select. And now I'm ready to create my folder or my project. One other thing I want to point out to you guys. On the bottom left-hand side, I have an option to skip the import mode, okay? First time you open it up, or if you never unclick that, it will always give you that option. I'm going to show you how to create a project without using the import mode. Do you know why? Because we have a master folder with all of our files. The import will allow us to import from all sorts of different locations. And then suddenly, you're missing files and you don't know where to find them, okay? I will leave skip import mode on for right now, just so you guys see what the import mode is. Okay, and it did not pop up. Interesting. Okay. So this is what happens when I open up Premiere Pro, and this is what's called our workspace. If the import panel were to come up, it simply says, where do you want to import your videos or your files from, okay? And you just click next, okay? And it will come to your workspace, okay? Now, when you first open it, you will typically get what's called the Essentials workspace, which looks something like this. And these little guys, as I click them and they are highlighted in blue, are called my panels, okay? I'm going to create a workspace that works for me. It can be different for you. There are basically about 9 or 10 panels that I use, but there are about 7 of them that are critical to me, okay? So it opens to Essentials, but the bottom line is, what are we doing? We're editing. So I'm going to select Editing, okay? And on the bottom left here, I have something called a Project panel. I'm going to choose to click and drag it to the left. If I were to drag it into the middle of this panel, it would just make it a tab in the panel, okay? I'm going to move it to the left, and now it's a separate panel, okay? And as you hover over these, you can resize them and reshape them any way that you want, okay? Across the top, I want to see my project panel, which has my information. I want to see my source panel, which tells me what clip I'm selecting, and I want to see my program panel, okay? My properties panel over here, I don't need it. I'm just going to close it, okay? Also up here next to source is something called effect controls. We have an effects panel and effect controls. We'll talk about them a little bit later, but I want to be able to access them both, okay? On the bottom, I want 4 panels, okay? The first one I want is my effects, okay? It says media browser. This says libraries. This says info. I don't see effects, but I do see this arrow, these two arrows to the right, telling me there's more hidden here. And when I select that, I can now select my effects panel. Okay? The 4 areas that you will use the most, okay, is audio effects, audio transitions, video effects, and video transitions. Okay? And I have even created my own folder for the files or the effects and transitions that I use most. Okay? And really, 5 of these are really all I need. I really could do without the morph cut. Constant power is an audio transition that allows me to fade in and fade out. Cross dissolve allows me to dissolve between 2 video clips. Dip to black allows me to bring it up or bring it down to black. Dip to white allows me to bring it up or bring it down to white. And warp stabilizer tells me I'm not steady and smooths things out. They are the 5 that I use the most. Okay? You could just go to video transitions, and under dissolves, you'll see cross dissolve, dip to black, dip to white. You could go to audio transitions, and under crossfade, you'll see constant power highlighted in blue. Okay? But instead of having all those open, I like to just put them into a shortcut folder. Okay? And to do that, all you do is you come down here, you create a new bin, as it's called. You type in what you want, and you just drag them into it. It doesn't remove them from where they are. It just creates a customized one for you. To the right of that is my tools. And what's really cool about my tools is that I can put them in a vertical line, and that's all I need. I don't need to take up all that space, because the most space that I need is for my sequence or my timeline. Okay? And then the last panel over here is an audio panel. Okay? These are the 7 main panels. I want to know that audio's there and I can hear my audio. If I want to adjust my audio, I will open up an audio channel mixer to change the volume of the different audio channels. If I want to add graphics, I will open up the Essential Graphics, which is now called Graphics Browser, okay, on Premiere Pro. And if I need to adjust my color, I will use what's called the Lumetri or Lumetri. It's Lumetri, which is Adobe's color correction. But I don't need those all at once, so I can open them later. To do that, I would just simply go into Window, and I would go down and select Lumetri color, and it will pop up as a separate panel. Okay? So we're just going to get rid of that for now. All right? This is the workspace that I like. Yours can be different. I tend to view my media in a list format. I noticed many of the people I work with like thumbnails better. It's whatever's right for you. But these are things that you will need. You need to access your project. You need to access your effects. You need to access your timeline. You need to see the clip you selected, and you need to see your project as you're creating it. The only one we could do without here is the audio. And the audio is so small over here, and it lets me know that I've got sound when I see the meters moving, that it doesn't matter to me. Okay? Once I have this created, if you want to, you can go to Workspace, and you can save it as a new workspace. And this can be our Florida Aviation Network workspace. And then if I change anything or move anything around, all I have to do is go back to Fan or go back to Reset to my saved layout. And that's my workspace. Does it make sense for everybody? Everybody went like this, yeah. All right. I'm going to minimize this a little bit just to pull it out of the maximize screen so that I can see my folder over here called Two Rivers, okay? And the reason I'm going to do that is to show you guys how I like to import my footage and my music and whatever I have. Yes?
Can you put that on a stick so if you go to a different computer that's got Adobe on it, you plug it in and it...
As long as you created that master computer, absolutely 100%. Or master folder, absolutely 100%. Now, you guys remember we created the master folder and I created the project inside of the master folder too. Look at my master folder. Instead of 11 video files and 1 audio file, it now has an Adobe project file in it. As long as everything is saved in your master project folder, you can take that, put it on a flash drive, put it on an external hard drive, put it on another computer, and you can open it up there, okay? And if that other computer has a newer or older version of Adobe Premiere Pro on it, it will simply say, I need to convert your project file to one I can work with, and it will do it right then and there for you. So, okay? So I want to import these files, but I don't want to import my new project file, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a square around these to select all of them, all right? And watch this. I'm going to drag them and oops, I only grabbed one. My apologies. Let me go back and grab all of them again. I didn't bring a mouse with me. So I'm going to drag them into my project folder, and there they are. All right? If you want to get a little more detailed, I'm going to slide this over a little bit until I see this folder. They call them bins in Adobe Premiere. I could create a new bin, and I could name this bin video. And I could just take my video files and drag them into the video bin. I could create a bin for my audio, or for this particular video, it's just music. And now I have audio, and you can organize everything. It doesn't change anything in my original folder. Okay, it just changes it in Adobe Premiere, and we'll save it into this file right here. Okay? So we have created our master project folder. We've identified the files and created our workspace. And now we're going to create our project and import our footage. Okay? We imported the footage. I need to create a sequence. Okay? Now this is very, very important. If I were to look at my video footage, I notice that it shot at how many frames per second? 59.94. I could scroll across it and it will tell me that it is 1920 by 1080, okay, at 1.0. So my aspect ratio, 1920 by 1080 is 16.9 aspect ratio. My resolution is 1920 by 1080. My frame rate is 59.94, okay? And the type of file is an MOV. So we know that it is at an H.264 codec. So remember those formalities we talked about? They're all there. Now my sequence, I'm going to play it on Florida Aviation Network. So what resolution do I want? Full HD, 1920 by 1080. Okay. So there's my resolution and my aspect ratio. What frame rate do I want for broadcast? 30. I don't want the 60. I want 30. What this tells me, it was shot at 60, so I could slow it down to 50% if I want. Remember that? I could slow it down if I want. Okay? And you can always speed things up. That's no big deal. Okay? But slowing down could be difficult. If it was shot at 30, could I slow it down? No. If I slowed it down 50%, I'd be at 15 frames and it would be choppy, okay? So I want to create a sequence at 30 frames per second. What some people often do is they will just take their starting file and drag it into their timeline. What that does is it creates a sequence based on that particular file, that particular video clip. It's not what I want, okay? I want to create a new sequence, okay? Don't let this screen be intimidating. It says broadcast, HD, Ultra HD, HDR, which stands for high dynamic range, Ultra HD, 4K. And legacy means we put some of these old ones in for some old time footage in case you're used to using older versions, okay? We're not even going to bother with the broadcast, okay? We are going HD 1920 by 1080, okay? And we're choosing what frame rate? 29.97, 30 frames per second, okay? That's what we're choosing. What do I want to name my sequence? You know, if this is the only sequence that I'm doing on this project, it could just be sequence 1, right? It doesn't really matter, all right? For this one, I'm just going to name it test because we're testing, okay? And I'm going to hit OK. Notice over here in my project folder, I have test. It's inside a video. I don't want it inside a video, okay? So I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to drag it down below video. And did I get it outside? I got it outside of video now. So I have an audio folder, a video folder, and my sequence, okay? If I wanted to do a secondary sequence at 60 frames per second, I could create a second sequence, okay? I could even go into my sequence settings and change it after the fact. Select test, sequence, and my sequence settings. I could go back in and change it if I want to, okay? This is where we're creating the project. This is not the export of the project, okay? Think about what I said there. This is where we're creating it. This is not the export. So if I just drug one of my video files in and created this sequence at 60 frames per second, we're still good because I can export it at 30, which is what we need, okay? So we have our files, we have our video and audio files, we have our sequence, okay? And we created the sequence. Now we want to add the files, okay? If I go into video, and any file that I double click will show up on my source monitor here, okay? This, and I select fit so that I can fit the whole video, okay? The resolution is at 50%. I can put full resolution. My computer's good enough. The computer we have here is good enough. And it tells me that the duration of this clip is 38 seconds and 29 frames. Remember, there's 30 frames per second, okay? So when you scan through these clips, you'll see that I'm at 23.51 on the left here. Remember, this sequence was shot at how many frames per second? 50 or 60, right? And watch what happens when I get to 59, it goes back to 0. Okay? So as I'm scrolling through this, I want to find where I want to start and where I want to finish. So what I'm going to do is, I happen to know that I have this shot right here. This shot is 1 minute, 44 seconds, and 12 frames. I want it to be less than that. I was shooting with my drone. Notice I was stationary here as I'm scrubbing along, and then I started to fly in across that bridge, okay? I want to start right here before I fly in across the bridge. I want to tell the computer this is my in point. There are two ways you can do it. You can come down here to mark in and mark out. And if you notice behind them in parentheses are two letters, I for in and O for out. So if I just hit in on my computer, I want you to look at the timeline where my video head is. And it is now taking from here, disregarding this information, all the way to the end. So now I want to find out my out point. And I just happen to know on this particular video that there's a guy riding a bicycle up here. And he's on the left-hand side of the screen, right there. And he's coming in to park his bicycle. And that's what I want to be my out point. And I hit 0. Or, I'm sorry, I hit O. Not 0, O. In or out, or I could have chose mark in, mark out. Just like that. Now I need to move this into my sequence, right? Okay. Typically, with video, you have audio. Okay. If I grab over top here and I drag it into the sequence, I will bring the video and the audio into my sequence. Now I shot this with my drone, which was not recording audio. Okay. If it's B-roll, beautiful shot of a mountain as my establishing shot, and I don't want any of the audio, I could come down here and over this little picture of the film clip, it says drag video only. If I just wanted the audio and I wanted to use the person's voice, I would just drag audio only. If I want the video and the audio, I'll come into the clip and click and drag from there. Okay? For this particular one, I just want video only. And I'm going to drag the video clip in. Notice what came up here. If you read it, it says the clip does not match the sequence settings. Do you want them to match? We knew the clip was 60 frames per second, 59.94. We knew that we created a 29.97 because we want to get it ready for export. We want to see exactly what it's going to look like. I don't want to edit in one and export in another. So no, I don't want the settings to match. I want to keep my existing settings. Okay? And it just made it into a 30 frame per second clip for me. All right? Now, I had a song I wanted to use. If I double click the song, notice I get a waveform. Okay? And we don't, well, actually, I don't know if I have audio on the TV, but we'll see. All right, here's the song we're going to use. Same thing with the video. I want the song to start after the first part goes through. 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. That's where I want it to start. Guess what key I want to hit? I for in. Okay? And I'm going to let it play. I don't know how much of this I need. So why don't I just pull the whole audio clip in? Remember, drag video? No, drag audio. Okay? By the way, before I do that, let me point out to you, you see this thicker line in our sequence right here? Everything above it is video. Everything below it is audio. Okay? And I'm going to drag my audio clip in. And I dropped it in. Okay? Now the audio clip, I want it to start at the beginning, right? So I can just click it and drag it all the way to the left there. This little guy right here allows me to expand or contract my sequence. Well, if this is the length of my song and my video is going to end here, Do I need to see all this? No. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand so I can see my full sequence, my full timeline. All right. So I have about 2 minutes of audio here. If I click it, it looks like I have 2 minutes and 2 seconds and 7 frames, right till the end of the song. Well, I brought one clip in, and it took up almost my whole soundtrack, okay? I decided, before we did this class, that I was going to speed this clip up. I'm going to make that guy ride his bike a little bit faster than he would normally. So if I right-hand click on my clip, I can go down to my speed and duration. And if I want to double the speed, I could just change this to 200%. And what it's going to do is it's going to compress that video clip to half as much time. Now everything's going to move twice as fast, but it's okay. It was a slow clip. I just happened to know that because I watched it before. Okay? So to free up a little bit of space. All right? Now before I move on, let's talk about the beginning. Do I want the music to hit or do I want the music to fade in? Let's fade the music in. Remember over here I said under audio, transitions, and crossfade is constant power. I also have it under my most used, constant power. These are just drag and drop. And I will drag it and drop it into the beginning. And if I zoom in a little more, you'll see my transition there. See that? All right. I want to fade in. And by the way, in the video world, the difference between fade and dissolve. You cannot fade between two clips. You dissolve between two clips. If you fade, you would be fading or dipping to black or white and then going to your next clip. All right? In the whole timeline of things, a dip to black can show a change in time or a change in location. A dissolve is within the same location. So I'm going to take another clip and add it to my video. And let's see what I got here. Oh, here's my bird. See my bird coming into the frame right here? That's going to be my endpoint. I'm going to hit I. And I'm zooming in on my friend's marina. And as soon as the boats get out of the picture, that's going to be my out. I'm going to grab video only and drag it in. All right, so we're starting to create our story here. I want to fade in from white or black. Pick a winner. What do you guys want? Black it is. I'm just going to drag and drop black right here. Okay? Is this location and this location the same river? Yeah. So I don't want to go to black between them. I just want to dissolve between them. And I'm going to go to cross dissolve. And I'm going to drop it on. Okay? And let's grab another video clip. Let's see what else I got here. We zoomed in over the boats. We can pull out above the boats. I decided this is the end of my clip, not the beginning. So what do I want to hit? O for out. Now I'm going to back up, find the beginning of my clip, and hit I for in. You can do it any order you want. Just for the record, there's no right or wrong way to do things. You could build from the middle out. You could add titles first. You could pull your music in first. If you're doing a music video, it's always great to put the music in first, build around the music, you know. Same area, I just want to cross dissolve. All right. And let's see if that dissolves. Nice, dissolved over that. And let's grab one last clip. That kind of looks the same as something else we used. Here we go. Nice little pan of the Hall Village. Same sort of thing. I'm going to choose my out point first. And I'll start right from the bridge there. And I'm going to pull this clip in. And it looks like I really got lucky. It just went right to the end of the song there. All right. I want to pull my cross dissolve in again. Okay. And dissolve between them. And we don't get the pleasure of watching the video quite yet. So we kind of pulled our video together, right? Remember I was talking about color correction? Okay. So on my Lumetri color correction, I want to make this clip look a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my window. I'm going to choose my Lumetri color. I'm going to move it out of the way so I can see my clip. And now we're going to play around. So watch. If I make it brighter or darker, okay, I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. I'm going to turn the saturation up. I will tell you one thing with video. In photography, you cannot crank the saturation as much as you can in video. I'm going to take that up to about 130. Okay. Highlights and shadows. Highlights will bring out your clouds. Okay. When you take it down, shadows will brighten up the shadows when you bring it up. So what I will do is I will bring my highlights down a little bit. See how it's kind of bringing out the sky a little bit? And I'm going to bring my shadows up just to lighten up the blacks a little bit. All right. The only other thing I might do a little bit is add a little bit of contrast. Okay. I didn't touch the color on this. Notice the color is a little separate area here. I only was messing with the light. I can either select my eyedropper and I come in and either select a white or neutral gray area and click on it, and it should bring my colors into perspective. And when I click, it really didn't change much at all. These just barely moved. All right. I can make it a little bit bluer or a little bit warmer. Okay. If it's a cold day, I might make it a little bluer. Summer day, I might make it a little bit warmer. We're going to keep it like that. Now I want this to be the same effect for, or the same color correction for every one of my video clips. Okay? So I'm going to close Lumetri. Instead of having to do that for every single clip, I can right-hand click and copy. I can select my 3 video clips, and I can right-hand click and paste attributes. This isn't pasting the video information. It's pasting any alterations I made to the video information. So when I select attributes, this window will come up. It happens to know that the only thing I really changed was the color. I didn't change the opacity. I didn't change the motion. I didn't change any audio effects. But if for any reason it was not selected, I would select the Lumetri color and I would hit OK. And now that preset is applied to all of my clips. If I open up Lumetri color and I select my first clip, notice there's our changes. When I select my second clip, notice the changes have been applied to it. Okay? There's one more thing I want to do to our movie before we watch it. We want to fade to black at the end, right? So I'm going to hit dip to black, and I'm going to drag it all the way in to the end. All right? If I double click that, this screen will come up. It gives me hours, minutes, seconds, and frames. Remember that? And our timeline is at 30 frames, right? Or 29.97. Okay? So right now, that is a 1 second dissolve. Okay? Can someone tell me what it would be if I wanted it to be a 2.5? Let me correct myself. I said dissolve. Fade. It is a 1 second fade, or 30 frames. How long would it be for 2.5 seconds? It's easy to get the 2 seconds, right? There's the 2 seconds. How many frames do I need for half a second?
75.
We shot at 30 frames per second.
15.
So 15 frames. So I can make this a 2 second and 15 frame dissolve. And if you keep an eye on this little guy right here, when I hit OK, it expanded to 2.5. Okay? Now, if you're a visual person and you look at it and it's too fast or too slow, guess what you can do? You can click on it and you can make it longer or shorter. And if you look on the bottom right, here is 4 seconds and 17 frames. I could take that all the way down to whatever I want it to be. There's 2 seconds and 15 frames. You can do it visually, you can do it mathematically. Okay? So now we're ready to watch our video. Okay? Let me talk about a few other things before we watch our video. Okay? Notice when I click on the panels, they're highlighted in blue. Okay? If you're ever not sure where you're at or where you need to be, whatever panel you want to work on, you highlight on blue. Okay? So I have my program panel on the top right. It's not that big, is it? It's really not showing that much detail. Well, if I were to select that, I can full screen it. Okay? There are hundreds and maybe even thousands of shortcuts in Adobe Premiere. Does anybody know what the tilde key is? The tilde key kind of looks like a wave. All right? If I hit the tilde key, it'll full screen it and still give me my control panel down here. Okay? If I hit control tilde, it'll get rid of the whole control screen and just full screen it. All right? This is just for us to watch so we can see it at full resolution. And I'll control tilde to get back to that. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the tilde key. I'm going to turn the volume up on my computer so you guys can hear it. And I'm going to hit play. All right? One thing that's really, really cool about Adobe is no matter what you hover over top of, if there's a shortcut, it'll be in parentheses. And the start and stop key is the space bar. All right? So I can hit play, okay? Or if I went control tilde and got rid of everything, all I need to do is hit the space bar. You guys ready to look at the video we created? Let's do it. Now, remember we sped this first frame up to twice as fast? As we cross over the bridge here, watch how fast our bicyclist is going. The cars don't really look like they're going that fast, but our bicyclist is really hauling butt. That's got to be an e-bike. Okay. So a couple things I want to share with you. First of all, we didn't put a title on it. We could add a title real quick. Second of all, did you notice that it stuttered a little bit when we were watching it a few times? As it was kind of panning, it stuttered a little bit. Okay. When I come down here and I look at my sequence, okay, what color is the line above my sequence? It's yellow. Okay. In video, you want to render something before you export it to make it go smoothly. But it takes a little bit of time to render it. And Adobe gives you this kind of guide, kind of like a traffic light. If it's red, and if there's red areas, it's probably not going to play it. If it's yellow, it's a caution. It played it, but it stuttered a little bit. If it were green, it would play it smoothly. Okay? So you guys remember how we chose an in point and an out point up here? Well, guess what? You can do the same thing on your main sequence. And I could choose I for an in point and O for an out point. I'm going to have to go into the video to do it. There we go. Okay. And up here under sequence, I can render into out. Okay. Before you export your final project, you want to render it. You can watch it when it's yellow, but when you're ready to export it, you want to render into out. And what it's doing is it's telling me I have 3,671 video frames, and it rendered them. And now, what color is it? Green. All right. Let's do a quick title. Remember I told you about that? I used to call it Essential Graphics. Now it's called Graphics Templates. Okay, this is built into Adobe. It has all these different graphics templates. You can buy them off Adobe stock. You can take local ones that are added with the installation, or you can search Adobe stock for some free ones as well. Okay, I'm just going to take this very first one that says your title, and I'm going to drag it in, and then I'm going to close out my graphics because I don't need to see it anymore. And I'm going to move it to where I want it to be. All right. And it looks to me like my music starts right about there. So I'm actually pretty good. I just want this to be a little bit to the left. Okay. Another shortcut I'll tell you guys real quick is the letter S for snap. If I push the letter S in and I go to drag this, it'll snap right to that. See how it snaps to it? If I push the letter S again and I want to just kind of move wherever I want to move, it won't snap. When you're pulling your video clips together, the snap's really nice because it does this. Because if you have this, you can't dissolve between them. You have to have this. So it's good to have the snap on. Okay? And now if I double click my title, it says your title here, episode name. Okay? So this video footage is a little fishing town in north of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, called Two Rivers. So I'm going to put my caps lock on, and I'm just going to name this Fishing Village. And where it says episode name, it's Two Rivers, Wisconsin. And it's a little fishing village where they have fishing and they have tourism. And there's two rivers that actually exit into Lake Michigan. And my friend owns that little marina, and I was just shooting some footage of his marina. Okay. Now, what do we notice here? What color is that? yellow, okay? So if I come back up here and sequence, render into out, it'll make that green, okay? So I have the music down. I'm just going to play the beginning here, and just to show it the title that we just added in, okay? And that was the title we added in, okay? So bring my windows back to their normal size where I like them. And remember, I had already saved this. So if I want to, I could just go Window, Workspaces, Fan, reset the saved, and boom. Put it just the way I set it up. Okay? Now we're ready to export. All right? It's the final thing. And up here, that was that import window that would have came up. Editing is what we were just doing. And export is what we're going to do next. Okay? But before we do export, right now it will not export. And the reason it won't export is notice the panel that has the blue frame around it. That's my graphics panel. Do I want to export just my graphic, or do I want to export my whole timeline? So you come down here and you select timeline. Okay? You could also select the program panel. Okay? But if you select your tool panel, you're not going to get your project. If you select your source, you're not going to get the whole video project. You have to select your timeline or your program panel. Remember this guy down here? I'm going to take my video playhead and I'm going to move it all the way to the left, and I'm going to stretch this, or compress this actually, so I can see my whole timeline. Is my whole timeline green? It is, right? Because if I take my title and I move it a little bit, oh, I got some yellow there. Am I ready to export? No. I would have to go up to sequence, render into out, and make sure that it's green. Okay? Now, just so you guys know, the newer versions of Adobe Premiere will render it before it exports it automatically for you. Okay? I like to be safe. So I'm going to go to my export screen. Okay? It says, what do you want to name it? The reason it named it test is because test was the name of my sequence. Okay? So you obviously can name it whatever you want. Florida Aviation Network has a way that we name our files, starting with, is it the initials, then the date?
Year, month, day, and then the initials.
Okay, so the year is a 4 number code, right?
It's 25.
Oh, it's just two number. Okay, 25, and today is 0928, I believe. My mother's birthday.
Right, and this is the first video.
And then we use an underscore and my initials.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I put a explanation in. I don't know if I'm supposed to or not, but I would come over here and I'd put Two Rivers, so I know what it is. Okay. Now, where do I want to import it? All right. This doesn't have to go into your program folder. This is your completed file. Where do you keep it? Where do you want to keep it to get to it that you know where it's at? You know, I could just go over here to movies and I could put it in my movies. Oh, look what's in there. The video I made for Florida Aviation Network Eclipse trip. All right. I could just put it in the movies and I'll hit save. Now, the preset here is what is important. It's saying, do I want to match my source at adaptive high bit rate? Well, we made our timeline 29 frames per second, but our source was 59. Okay? So I want high quality 1080 HD. Remember, HD, full HD, is 1920 by 1080, okay? And when I select that, it gives me the format of H.264, okay? Without changing anything, okay, it defaults to my sequence, 29.97. That's why I made the sequence what I want my final project to be. So, because if I send this to Florida Aviation Network at 60 frames per second, they may not be able to broadcast it. If I send it to them at 24, the audio may not sync up with the sound, or I mean with the video. So you really should create your sequence, whatever you want to export your final project as, okay? And the other thing, it says what range down here. I can do the entire range, or I can just do the source in out. Remember I chose an in and an out? I'm just gonna leave it at source in out. If I didn't choose an in out, you could do the whole range. I'll tell you why I use source in out. Sometimes I have a clip, I'm not sure if I'm gonna use it. I move it to the end. And it might be sitting 30 seconds down in the end of my timeline in case I wanna bring it back later. Well, by choosing an in and an out, it will just export what I want. Sometimes, hey Robert, you sent me a 2-minute video, but how come it's 3.5 minutes long? There were a couple of clips, 3.5 minutes down there that I chose not to use. I forgot they were there, okay? So that's why I choose the in-out, okay? Full HD, 1080p, H.264, export, and it's going to export my video. So while it's exporting my video, there's a couple settings on Premiere Pro that it will default to. One that it defaults to is that it will save your project every 5 minutes, okay? The shortcut to saving your project is Command-S, and you cannot push Command-S enough. Everybody hear me? You cannot push Command-S enough, because the minute you make one change and you make a second change and it crashes, you lost both changes. Command-S is your friend. Command-Save, that's your friend, okay? The other thing I wanted to share with you guys is, let's go into Premiere Pro and settings. On a Windows machine, it would be Edit Preferences. On a Mac, it's Premiere Pro Settings. This screen here gives you all the presets for the application. There's one preset set I want to share with you guys, and it is under Media. You see number 4 here? It says Default Media Scaling. Remember we talked about shooting in 4K? If you shoot in 4K and you pull it into your Full HD, 1920 by 1080 timeline, you want it to fit into the frame, but you don't want to lose the extra information, okay? So you want it to fit to the frame and remain a 4K video. If you were to choose to scale it to the frame, it will scale it down to a 1920 by 1080. And remember how I said you could move all around that 4K and use any part of that 4K? You would not be able to do that. Does that make sense? That 4K image, and I only need 1920 by 1080, but I may want this part of it, or this part of it, or all of it. The ability to zoom in onto the 4K image is only available if you fit it to the frame size, not scale it. Because when you scale it, you lose the ability to zoom in on it, okay? It does away with all that information, all right? That is something that I will be setting up on our editing computer here, and you'll never have to worry about it, because once it's set, it'll always be there. But for those of you that try education versions of Premiere Pro, by the way, if you can get an education version, I believe it's like $9.95 a month, okay? If you can get Premiere Pro for $120 a year, all right, beg mom and dad to do it, all right? The education version is the full version. And as a student, whether you're in high school or college, or if you're an educational institution, if you can get the education version, it's cheap, all right? There are no scaled down versions of Premiere Pro. There used to be Premiere Pro Essentials, which was a scaled down version. And there's something also called Premiere Rush, but Rush is being discontinued. Actually, by the end of this month, in a few days, Premiere Pro Rush will no longer be available because all the features of Premiere Pro Rush are now available on Premiere Pro. Okay. So we outputted it. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to, save my project. And then I'm going to close out Premiere Pro. And in my Finder, I'm going to, let's look at my Finder. Here's my 11 files. Here's my audio file, okay? Look at this. Here's my project. Here's all the times it auto-saved. Here's all the previews that allows us to watch it quickly. Audio, video. There's our graphics template. And this is the actual, I believe, the graphics link that I pulled into the timeline. Master folder. Is there anybody in here that would have remembered to go find all those files and pull them into the master folder before they tried to edit it on another computer? No. That's why you create the master folder. And then I saved our project outside of the master folder under movies. And this is our project. And I can double click it. Ooh, weird. It's trying to open it into NX Studio. Wouldn't have expected that. So what I'll do is I'll right-hand click and open it in QuickTime Player. And I can maximize it, hit the space key, and play our video. There's our title. And you can see everything's moving nice and slow and smooth. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I hope this helped you a lot. I'm going to stick around, answer any of the questions that you guys have. And if we need to, we can even put a frequently asked questions page up from the training. And once we're done here, let me go back into our presentation and just put this up for you guys. And if you want to take a photo of that, you guys can email me anytime you want. Y'all can call me anytime you want. I won't answer the phone. Just leave a message or text me, all right, because I won't recognize your number. And I am always free for information because you don't get the in-person information again because I live 130 miles away in St. Petersburg, Florida. All right. Thank you all for coming out, man. I really enjoyed sharing this with you guys. I know it's a lot of information. Digest it, enjoy it. Become amazing video editors. I look forward to seeing some of your work.